and welcome to the Simplify Your Retirement Podcast. My name is Paul Brock, and if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Glad that you're tuning in today, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast channel. We're excited to have you along. If you've been with us for a long time, welcome back. We're excited to have you here for this episode as well. So if you haven't already, we'll get this out of the way up front, but go ahead and hit that like button or that subscribe button, the bell icon, whatever it is, wherever you're at. The way to be able to continue to get this content pushed out to you would be to do that. It also helps grow the channel and share this information with other people. So the algorithms love those likes and they love the subscribes and all of that. So it just helps us be able to get this information out to even more people and be able to help more people. So take a moment and hit that like or subscribe button. So excited for today's episode. This summer we've been kind of walking through some things. So this is summer of 2025 with our Wise Wealth Summer Education Series. We've done a focus on empowering you to age well. And so we all age. This happens all the time and it continues to happen. And we get older and older and older, but we want to not just do retirement planning and get you to retirement, but we want to also get you through retirement and be able to have that quality of life that you want. And so our focus is to be able to help people and empower them to age well and as much as possible age in place at home. That's always the goal. And so we want to do that. And so this summer we had at our summer education series, we had 3 speakers come in and talk about some different things. We've already had a couple on our podcast. And today I'm excited to have in the studio with us, Aaron Love. Aaron, welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. I know, it was great having you as part of the podcast, as part of the panel that was talking about this idea of aging well at our summer education series. And when we're recording this, we've done one in June, and then we're going to be doing one more yet this summer. But this is something that's going to be kind of out there long term for people to be able to have. And so we wanted to be able to bring everyone in the podcast studio and be able to have a little more in-depth conversation around the very big topic and be able to kind of help guide people through that process of what does it look like to age well. You know, I was thinking about today, it's kind of funny because I was sitting here thinking, preparing for the podcast, I'm like, this almost feels like a good joke here, right? So the joke would go something like this: an insurance agent and a lawyer walked into a podcast studio. And that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, that wouldn't be what normally people would want to tune into.
No, but it's going to be a fantastic episode. I'm really excited for it, and we want to do that. So I appreciate having you on again. We've had you on several episodes in the past of the Simplify Your Retirement Podcast. Always great information. Over the years, Wise Wealth and your law firm have worked well together. We've worked with you. I remember my first interaction with you really was a client event where you came and spoke to Wise Wealth clients. And so being education-based, that's one thing we love about you, being education-based, just like we're education-based. I know our firms align well together and we always work well together. And so always appreciate what you bring and the educational piece, being able to simplify things for people too, so that they understand these complex topics. So, but all that to say, in the past, the other episodes that we've had have always kind of been on that legacy planning piece. So in a sense, legacy planning would be, for lack of better terms, death planning, right? Planning for what happens after you're gone. But here we're talking about aging well. Is planning look different when you're talking about planning for what might happen while you're alive?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And first of all, I just want to thank Wise Wealth for having me, not only as part of their summer series, but today it's always a privilege. Even though we've known each other a long time, I never take this relationship for granted and the opportunities. So yes, I have the privilege of working with people every day, literally, and it could be a combination of people who more focus on death planning, which we can highlight that in a little bit, but I also daily are dealing with people because things are happening in their life, whether it be a diagnosis, they've had an accident, an injury, and then that changes the trajectory of their quality of life. So I was excited to participate this summer in this event to age well, because really what we find in our law office, probably incapacity planning and quality of life planning is as challenging or more challenging than death planning. And what we find is oftentimes it's overlooked. People think about having a will. So a will is actually something different than most people think about. It's your personal directions to a probate court, but people think it's the panacea. Okay, I have my will, we're done. But they may go and that's all they want in legal services because they don't really want to face the other part, and that's the incapacity. So people come in and they may bring to us, they're having some health event, and they may bring in their will. And maybe because a hospital kind of pushed it, a healthcare power of attorney and healthcare directive. So then we ask for, do you also have a financial power of attorney? And they know this is all we have. And so at that point, then we're hoping that the next question can be answered positively. Can the loved one that you're here concerned about still sign a document? Do they have the capacity, the cognitive ability to understand what they're signing and sign a document? And that's one of the reasons this is such a big topic. Any of us at any age could wake up and have some event, whether it be a fall, whether it be something like a stroke or an accident, and it changes our life. And at that point in time, we need somebody to step into our shoes and be able to make sure our bills are paid, to manage our financial affairs and manage our health care. So there is a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, obviously, when you're no longer here, it's more about what were your wishes, how did you want things to happen? But when you're still here, and maybe you don't have the capacity to do that, it's not a given that someone can step into your shoes. Because, I mean, even though Crystal and I have been married 28 years, my understanding is if something happened to me and tomorrow I was not able to make decisions, a health event happened or an accident, that unless I have the right documents in place, even though we've been married 28 years, she can't make those decisions for me legally.
That's absolutely correct. So one of the big things we find is people not understanding the law. People use intuition because, hey, we're married. Hey, it all should work out. And we've had that many times over the years. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You have to, for somebody to speak on your behalf, you have to give them permission in writing that somebody can see. That is authority that you are giving them. The other thing that we run into sometimes is people do shortcuts. We have a lot of do-it-yourselfers, and that's fine. It's just when you are a do-it-yourselfer, you're going and looking for those internet documents, and sometimes those documents don't do an in-depth review of what's required to actually meet the standards of the particular state. And so that's another thing we run into. They bring in their do-it-yourself documents from the internet, and they can be decently good, but then people run into, for example, some really little detail like the notary block. These documents have to be notarized. And so the notary blocks are pretty standard out there, right? But in the state of Missouri, the financial power of attorney law says it needs to be notarized like a deed. Well, when you go to the deed statute, it directs you to the notary statutes, and there you find how the statutory language needs to be written. And it needs to include these 4 words: free, act, ACT, and deed. Free, act, and deed. If it doesn't, a lot of folks would take it anyway. But the people that have all of our money, like big brokerage houses, or people that are going to need to take that document, like a title company to ensure title on passing of a deed, they want it to mirror the Missouri statute because there's a lot on the line for them. So we have had banks, for example, send it to their legal counsel, these documents that come in, and so clients come in and they wouldn't accept it. ABC Bank did not accept it. And we look through it and we go, okay, here's why. Because some of the legal departments expect it to be to the letter. For a document to work through incapacity, that's called durable. The only thing that durable means is it's good through incapacity. Well, what makes it durable? You have special language lifted out of the Missouri statute, inserted into the document. Well, some financial institutions want the exact language. So internet suppliers typically don't have the exact language. They have close, but some of them are very picky. So those are just a few of the details. So we have, to Paul's point, we did a seminar for an independent living organization last summer about this time. And somebody in the audience stood up and said, well, why do I need that? I'm married. And that is, I'm so glad that she did that she was brave enough to do that, because probably that's what a lot of people were thinking. They just didn't vocalize it. But the reality is, to have another person speak on your behalf, you have to have it in written authority, and that authority really should be in alignment with the state that you live in. Yeah. Now, having said that, because some of you that might look, well, what if I'm in another state? As long as your documents were in compliance with your state of residency, then typically they're going to be given, they're going to be looked at and accepted in other states. And one of the reasons for that is the 15th Amendment of the Constitution, which states, basically the states are to accept each other's contracts. But it's a problem if your documents are internet documents and don't comply with your state of residency, whether it be Missouri or Kansas. So, and I'm not saying that all internet documents are bad. Yeah. Because we have seen some that do pass the test, but oftentimes they don't. Another quick example of waiting too long, because it's one of the things. Yeah. Wise Wealth is really trying to say, hey, everybody, to age well, let's plan in advance of the event. Yes, absolutely. Okay, plan in advance of the event. So quite often, several times a year, we will have somebody who is given a set of documents from one of the healthcare institutions, okay? Because what they're doing, they're just trying to help. They know you are in dire straits, you don't have documents, so they have this on. So there's this one form that has 2 columns, very, very small print, probably 9-point, 2 columns, and they bring it in, and I know exactly what the issue is going to be, because 2/3 of the way down on the second column on the first page, it says it takes 2 doctors' opinions. So this is what is called a springing power of attorney. Well, wait, hold it. We're having a health crisis now. We need to be able to have this authority now. So the organizations are trying to be helpful, but they don't understand the content of the document. Yes. So you take that document to a bank or a brokerage company, and they're going to say, where's the doctor statements? And you might not have those yet, because doctors are reluctant to state you are incapacitated. Yeah. So this is why it's so important to plan in advance, and whether it would be our law firm or another law firm, or do the research. Yeah. If you're going to do it online, do your own research to make sure your documents have what they need in them. Because in that moment of crisis, time is of the essence. Yeah. To be able to move quickly, to have your healthcare documents in place, your financial documents in place. Because let's say you're going to get better, but maybe for 30 to 60 days, you really aren't able to manage your affairs. So you need somebody to be quickly able to step in.
Yeah. So I hear that. And I know a lot of times people talk about all these documents and they kind of just lump it all together, right? So like financial power of attorney. Well, we want to have a financial power of attorney in place. We're doing legacy planning. Well, financial power of attorney ends at death, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So the other thing that Paul said there, okay, most people think everything we're talking about is one four-letter word, will.
Yeah.
They think the will means all of this.
Mm-hmm.
No, all of this, you can call it estate planning, legacy planning, comprehensive estate planning. The will is just one document. It serves a purpose. Some people might have a living trust, but these documents are good during your lifetime. So as Paul indicated, these are based upon agency law, which came across with the Mayflower. It originated in Europe. So this is somebody's appointing another person as a helper.
Mm-hmm.
We have fancy words like, proxy and surrogate and fiduciary, an agent, an attorney in fact. Mm-hmm. But really, it all boils down to you're identifying a helper.
Yeah.
So under European, the law that came across in the beginning, even incapacity terminated your document. Okay, because you're naming somebody to be your helper. Okay, here I want you to be my helper. Then you become incapacitated. Document severs, terminate. So the states, a number of years ago, 40, 50 years ago, started passing statutes, and they agreed on something. It's hard, but they agreed across the board. We will call a document durable if it has certain language in it designed to be good through incapacity. So that's where the word durable originates from. But all power of attorneys end at death because they're based upon agency. Why do you need a helper now? You're gone. So we have people come in and go, well, we tried to use this power of attorney. We thought this is what we needed. Well, that's a living document. Mm-hmm. So the bank isn't going to take it because they come in and say the bank or the brokerage company didn't take it. Well, no, they're not going to because your person is dead. At that point, that's when your legacy planning, your death planning kicks in, whether it be through a trust, now the trust would own it, or it could be transfer on death planning, and now you have transfer on death beneficiaries, or if you don't want to do any of that, you have no beneficiaries, then it's going to go through probate court, and that's where your will is your personal direction to a probate court. So it's important to understand how these documents all work.
So if we're talking about incapacity planning, so in other words, living documents, the documents that help you while you're alive, where you need that helper to be able to step into your shoes and take over, what are the documents that someone needs in place for incapacity planning, right? Because you said the will, the trust, all that generally takes effect after you're passed away. But what are the ones that give you the helper when you need someone to step into your shoes? What documents are needed? I know we've talked about them, but let's just kind of consolidate them here for people so they know what do they need.
That's a good point. We'll slow it down and just quickly identify those. So this would be your bucket of documents, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You would have a healthcare durable power of attorney. Okay. You would have a healthcare directive. It's okay if you already have a living will. Mm-hmm. But a healthcare directive is usually what the Kansas City metro community is looking for. So those are oftentimes combined, the healthcare power of attorney and the healthcare directive. Those do require a doctor's statement. Missouri statute defaults to 2 doctors, but your document can change it to 1. So it takes 1 doctor to state that you're no longer able to manage your own health care. So then your named agent, your named helper would step in at that point and first manage your health care, and then the healthcare directive part of it is really the life support part of the document. Yeah. The other thing that goes along with that is a HIPAA authorization. So it's important that those are updated. HIPAA, though, is huge. It's a big deal because it gives right to get your protected healthcare information, but it's not a decision-making document. It still allows you to be a good consultant, even if your loved one is not yet incapacitated. For the financial side, this document is called many things, and that's part of the confusion. It could be called a general durable power of attorney. Durable meaning it's good through incapacity. It could be called a financial durable power of attorney. They mean the same thing. It's dealing with non-healthcare, basically, your financial affairs. So once again, it could be a springing document, takes doctor opinions, or it can be effective immediately. And most of the time when we're dealing with senior clients, we would recommend the document be effective immediately because they're closer to, general healthcare issues occurring.
Okay, so when it comes to health, the law says someone has to say you can't make your own healthcare decisions.
That's correct.
Okay, so, but not necessarily with financial. Financial, you could give someone the ability to be able to do that at any point and not have to have a triggering event, a springing event, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So you can
That's
make
great.
your financial power of attorney effective immediately. So here's one of the things that we find with the people who come in with the documents. So it's typically a document review meeting, kind of an audit of what they have. They come in oftentimes with financial power of attorneys that are springing. But once again, as their health starts declining, they need help. They may be in a wheelchair or a walker. It may be difficult to just hop in a car or go somewhere. It may be difficult for them to hop on a computer and do it that way. So they just need a helper. They may need somebody to call a utility company to find out, why is my water bill higher this month? Because even to do that, we take that for granted. But that utility company is going to only talk to the person on file on record. So it's helpful to have that power of attorney on file, even for the spouse to call on behalf of that. So that's where having it effective immediately, oftentimes when you're a senior or you have a diagnosis, maybe early Parkinson's or MS, you still are going to start having issues to be able to have somebody come along and be able to help you without waiting until the doctor says you're, quote, incapacitated, unquote.
Okay, great. And so we have let's say we put the documents in place, and whether we're doing that through a firm like yours that understands the law and understands the nuances, make sure it's right, or you're doing a document review of, we put these in place, we just want to make sure they're good. Whatever the case, let's say we have that now. Now, how do we kind of plan for when capacity happens? How do we plan for that, as far as what are some of the ways that we can plan for it, pay for it, protect it? What are ways to be able to make sure that we can get the care we need when incapacity happens? Or, any incapacity could be just in parts, not full incapacity. We've talked before about activities of daily living. And so a lot of times it only takes, when you can't do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, you're considered, in a sense, incapacitated, although you may not be 100% incapacitated. So what does that look like to plan for when that time comes for someone to help you? How do we make sure you can get the help you need? So you've named someone. What do we do? How do we plan for that?
First, communicate your plan.
Okay.
So the key people that are going to be your helpers need to know. They need to know where your documents are, but also if they're going to really come along and assist you, what we recommend and what we're doing at the seminars this summer with Wise Wealth, we have a handout called Senior Planning Checklist. And if you're a younger person listening, we have one that's estate planning. There's a little difference, but in general, there's a lot of overlap. So it's having that asset inventory. What do you own? Where's it at? Who are the contacts? Account numbers. This, of course, all needs to be in a safe place with only trusted people that would have access to it. An income inventory. because some people have multiple pensions, not just Social Security, and then who's the key medical people that you rely upon. So having all of that and having that communicated is a huge, big deal start. Then, okay, how are you going to pay for it? So then we would start with health insurance. And of course, you can always have Wise Wealth review your health insurance to be sure you're getting the maximum from it. And so you start with that because that's your first line of defense. But when there's this misunderstanding regarding Medicare. Medicare is medical. So medical has a pretty tight definition.
Yes.
So if the medical field is basically done, all they can do, and now your long-term care, Medicare no longer sees that as medical. So at that point in time, you may need to be in assisted living. Maybe it's home care. Maybe, in more extreme situations, it might even be a nursing home. Medicare's not going to pay for that.
Yeah.
So at that point, what is your payer source? Well, you could have long-term care insurance. And if you are going to do that, there's a number of people you can talk to. You'd want to probably, if you're relying upon Wise Wealth, start with them, and they can point you to qualified people. But what you're looking for in that product is not really nursing home. You're wanting options.
Yes.
You're wanting home care options. Home care is expensive. It averages $35 an hour. We'd all rather be at home, but if you need that, do a little math, that adds up quick. So having it be able to assist with home care, maybe in assisted living, that's where you really want it. And sure, if we had to be in a nursing home and it could help with that too. So that would be one payer source. If you are a wartime veteran, then, or the widow of a wartime veteran, then there is a program out there under the VA, and it's called VA Aid and Attendance. And you can only access it if you're that wartime veteran. You only had to serve one day, so that would be something. You have that military requirement of 1 day of active duty during wartime, 90 consecutive days of duty. And there are some other general requirements on the military side. You need an honorable discharge, ideally. There are care requirements. Paul referred to it already. So some of these programs, to try to access them, you're not really going to meet the incapacity standard that a doctor would expect to sign off on that, but you need assistance. He mentioned 6 activities of daily living. For this particular program, you have to either be able to prove that you need help with 2 of the 6. So maybe that's, you need help transferring from one location to another. Because of your situation, you may need help dressing. Even if it's only helping putting on footwear, that's help with dressing. So there's care requirements. Or it could be that you have moderate to severe dementia. That would also get you through the door for the care requirements. You have to meet the definition of custodial care, and what I just explained is that definition. And then you have financial requirements for the VA program, which are fairly detailed, but we will make this commitment. If any of you are interested in a handout on that, we've put together a really great little resource. You could either contact Wise Wealth or our office to get that. It's a great little summary. It breaks down very complicated rules to give you a quick overview of whether or not it would be something worthy of you pursuing. So you have that. So we've talked about, okay, you got your health insurance, but it's going to have a date that it stops.
Yep.
We've talked about the potential of long-term care insurance, and we've talked about the VA program of aid and attendance. So those who may be looking at a nursing home, they could potentially qualify with some planning. There is some legal planning we can do. And that is one of the 40 different Medicaid programs. Note how I led with that? Everybody thinks there's one Medicaid program. There's actually 40.
Yeah.
So one of those, you walk through the door, and that door says vendor, VENDOR, vendor nursing home Medicaid. So it is one of the most difficult to be approved for. And in a way, we kind of want it to be. It's a very expensive program, but there are legal planning things that can be done. It's not hiding assets. That gets people in big trouble. That would be a federal offense. None of us really want to go to Leavenworth.
No.
Because Medicaid is a combination of federal and state rules. Each state negotiated it differently, so you have 50 different programs. So it's a very complicated, complex program. The rules are very difficult. But here's what we run into a lot with it. Even this week, I had the privilege of listening to somebody's story, and they're doing their very best for their loved one, and they have their loved one in an assisted living. And really, the loved one could be in either an assisted living or a nursing home. They would qualify for a nursing home due to their health issues. They're not extreme enough to really be kicked out of the assisted living. Well, if you're looking at the quality of life, most of us would choose the assisted living, where you have your private room, okay? Because most nursing homes, there are exceptions, but very few, you are in a semi-private room. So I'm sharing, this particular individual is driven more than an hour to get to me, okay? So he's hopeful, he's referred because we are a deep specialist in this area. So I'm listening to his story. He's saying assisted living. I just keep listening. And so I hear all the story, what's going on. And then I have to basically tenderly, kindly tell him, well, this is what's available under another door. It's a assisted living waiver program under the Medicaid system. We walk through that door, we do a whole bunch of work, and you get $292 a month because it's licensed as an assisted living. So where all the money, right or wrong, where all the money is at in the Medicaid world, it's walking through the vendor nursing home Medicaid door, which pays the difference between your loved one's income and the cost of care. It's huge. Now, it's not 100% of their income. And if you're married, maybe it's even less than their income because you could get what is called a spousal allotment, an excess housing allowance. There's other things. So it's important to understand that that's why you might want to talk to Wise Wealth. A lot of you already have, okay? Because you could look at your own private assets. Maybe looking at them, because what I just shared with you is pretty much what the options are, okay?
Yeah.
So what you could do is look at Wise Wealth. Maybe, okay, an age well plan might be, you have this IRA money. This IRA money is taxable when it comes out if it's not Roth IRAs. And so maybe you look at, a peace of mind kind of plan that, maybe we could look at this bucket, this IRA bucket, as something that could help pay for our long-term care. So we would have more choices. This is especially if you don't have long-term care insurance. We only teach it. We understand the pros and cons of it. So I personally have it. I understand the pros and cons because every October I pay my premium annual. Every year it increases.
Yeah.
And every year I myself have to go, oh my gosh, do I really want to keep paying for this? But because I'm in a field where I'm dealing with people in crisis, I see the costs. For example, the average cost of a nursing home in the state of Missouri is $7,909. But that's factoring in all the rural communities. In the metro, it's going to be closer to $8,500 as the average.
Wow.
The average assisted living is anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000, depending upon which one. Home care, $35 an hour. wow, 10 hours a day, you are equal to the more expensive nursing homes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all expensive. So if you sat down with Wise Wealth and said, hey, what Aaron is talking about in that podcast, can we pursue that a little bit? And you looked at, you have this IRA money. Why am I picking on IRA money? Because it's taxable. Mm-hmm. And some of these expenses, you need to deal with your accountant on that. But by the way, we have Becca Aller here, and she could help you with that as well. But and she's great, by the way. I personally use her. She's great. You could sit down and look at maybe this bucket of IRA money, because it's taxable anyway. And if I accessed it first and to pay those medical bills, then if I'm and that tax is being offset by some medical expense within the accounting world, I'm not guaranteeing all of it. A nursing home, I can. It's very clear. Nursing home is medical. Assisted living, accountants kind of differ a little bit on how much. But bottom line is, guys, what I'm saying to you, part of living well is having the peace of mind to know that if this comes, we got it covered.
Yep.
And so I think having that conversation with Wise Wealth would be very important, because you may go, whoa, our IRAs, a lot of people are blessed to have really large IRAs or 401ks because of their employers. But even $100,000, $200,000, an IRA, you still have some income coming in. And if you've got debt management under control, in other words, you are debt-free, but your usual credit card that you pay off monthly, then it might be helpful for you to sit down and look at a budget. What would this really look like? What if we tackled this? Because one of the things I even had with the conversation with this person is, okay, you have some money. We could do this plan, but you also have some money to try to keep them in the assisted living longer, maybe for a little better quality of life. So at any rate, I would just throw that out to you. Think about that, because if that IRA money is coming out, sure, it's taxable, but if it's being significantly offset by a medical expense, then I'm stretching the use of that. I'm getting more bang for that by taking advantage of it. So just some thoughts.
Got it. Well, and that's great information, Aaron. I really appreciate it. So we've talked about really from a legal standpoint, two types of planning that kind of fall in this field, right? So there's death planning and there's incapacity planning. With incapacity planning, there's really two types of documents you need. Two basic types, one for financial and one for health, if someone needs to step into your shoes. When we're looking at incapacity, understanding it could be broken down into two types of areas. There's health, medical, so maybe it's a medical issue, and then there's custodial care. And so we have all these things, and they kind of break them down, just keep breaking it down. But as we wrap up, I want to talk about the planning aspect, because you've talked about it. There's really only two ways to plan. There's plan ahead, which is obviously the best way to do it, especially when there are rules as far as ways to do protection and things, and there's time frames that the government sets on things. Planning ahead is obviously the best. But then there's also planning in crisis mode. If someone says, I have not done any planning, or they have to step in and help a parent, and the parents have not done any planning, is there any hope to be able to do planning in crisis mode?
There is hope in crisis mode, but now you are think of it this way, to kind of take Paul's setup of this question a little further. Think of, okay, are we going to plan to protect the building from burning down before the fire? Or are we going to wait to find the fire extinguisher and put in the sprinkler system during the fire? Okay? Because once you got the fire going, you're more limited, of course. So what you can do in advance, you can look at all kinds of things. Sometimes, for example, and there are many examples, one is real estate. Oftentimes people have very coveted real estate, and it may not be thousands of acres. It could just be 40 acres. You inherited it, but of course, even that's of great value in the state of Missouri now. or Kansas because of how those properties have increased in value.
Mm-hmm.
But that 40 acres, if it is worth $5,000 an acre, that's $200,000, okay? And that $200,000 is above the value of the VA program. It's going to be above the value for a husband and wife in a spousal situation. Is definitely above the value in a single person in Medicaid. So in the Medicaid world, it's going to be an issue. So we can do planning in advance. We've helped people all over the state with the asset protection trusts for that type of asset.
Mm-hmm.
No. Is it that easy to plan with an IRA? No, because unless it's Roth, because most people don't, nor should they, cash out a whole bunch to put it into an asset protection. That doesn't make sense because not everybody is going to have a long health crisis journey. So 50% statistically, national average of females at one point will be in a nursing home. Males, like Paul and myself, 1/3 chance. So that means not everybody's going to have this, but to have it in place because we don't know who that's going to be. So planning in advance gives you more options.
Yes.
For sure. I mean, it broke my heart this week because somebody did try to get their parent to do planning in advance. They didn't. They said, no, I still want to be in control of my assets. That's where people think, okay, I just give it to my child. Okay, that is one option. And in the VA world, you have a 3-year look back. In the Medicaid world, you have a 5-year look back. So that means if you did that, in 2019 in either of those programs and your health is now, okay, fine, that's off the table if you gave it to that family member. But many people don't want to do it because they're concerned about the family member's own potential life issues, possible divorce, bankruptcy, lawsuits. So another way to do it is a well-designed, tested asset protection trust where, yes, you are giving up control, but it is protected from your child's issues. And that still starts the 3-year clock or the 5-year clock, depending upon what you're trying to do. So there are, though, I have to say, most of the people that we deal with, they did not plan in advance, so we're doing crisis planning. So here's the good news. It's not too late.
Good.
We can still do things even in a crisis. And for people who are listening that are married and maybe already have diagnosis and they have not done pre-planning, then the good news for you, we can do some incredible planning with a husband and wife situation if one of them has to go into a nursing home. The planning techniques are legal. So there is a process, of course, of going through a very long process of getting that kind of approval. We had somebody recently, in fact, I just read the response of the spouse this morning before coming, and it's like, no, it's not like drive by McDonald's, get your Big Mac, and move on. No. It's, well, we saw the attorney. Why aren't we on Medicaid yet? We are the facilitators, the guide through the wilderness. We're dealing with state agencies. So it's a process. But the good news is you can save significant assets for the spouse that's not on the journey. So if you're single and you are caring for a loved one, we can also do crisis planning at that point. It will look different. We don't have a spouse to plan with, but we're still legal planning that can be done. This planning, guys, it's fully disclosed. We don't want to go to Leavenworth for Medicaid fraud, so it's all disclosed. It's just knowing the rules, how to get through the minefield, and accomplish the goals that you're trying to do. But once again, ideally, you'd plan in place. Now, here's what's really tough. They walk in, they're in crisis, and we ask for the power of attorney, financial power of attorney, and they don't have it.
Mm.
Then that's where we have to kind of, okay, how are they going to be able to answer that next question? We're going to need a power of attorney.
Mm.
We can prepare it. We can send a team or get a mobile notary to them. But do they have the ability to sign the document? Do they have the cognitive ability?
Yeah.
So that becomes a big deal. Well, what happens if they don't?
Mm.
Well, now we're looking at guardianship and conservatorship through the courts.
Mm.
So then medical evidence with doctor statements would show the court this person truly is incapacitated. Then through the court, a guardian over the person to make medical decisions, a conservator over the assets to manage the assets. Now we've compromised some of our planning because courts might be reluctant to allow some of the other planning that we can do.
Yeah.
So plan in advance.
Plan in advance, yeah. And so, the good news is, again, if you're in crisis mode, it's not hopeless.
It's definitely not hopeless.
There is hope. And so it's just, like anything, the farther you wait to plan, the longer you wait to plan, the more limited your options are. And so obviously plan ahead is the best thing. People don't like talking about dying. People don't like talking about the idea of being incapacitated. People don't like talk about the idea of needing custodial care. But the reality of it is we all run a risk of that. We all are going to die. That's a guarantee. We all are going to die. Many of us will need some sort of custodial care or having some sort of incapacity in our lifetime. So we have to be aware of that. And, we've always talked about financial peace comes from having a plan. But I would just say, even broadening it a little bit from this planning standpoint too, just planning brings peace of mind. And so that's really it. Take time to plan, right? And so...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So oftentimes after people have gone through the planning process, they may have started their main motivation to come, maybe death planning. Okay, regardless of their instrument of choice, will, transfer and death plan, or a trust, or an asset protection trust.
Yeah.
But then their eyes are opened. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I would need all these others. I wasn't aware that my daughter just being a daughter or my son just being a son wouldn't be able to make decisions for me. So when they leave, quite often they say, oh my gosh, I have so much peace of mind now. My ducks are in order, in a row, so to speak. So that is one of the big things. But then it's huge, as we wrap up, communicate your plan.
Yes. Your
people need to know where everything's at because they are like your emergency team. They're like, wow, we gotta step up. And so availability is a big deal for the people you choose.
Well, Aaron, thank you for your expertise and being able to explain this for everyone. There's so much here. And so if you're watching this today and you're saying, I need to do some planning, the good news is it just starts with a conversation. Whether it's a financial plan or it's a legal plan or it's a combination of both, you can reach out to us here at Wise Wealth and we can facilitate all of that. The number here is 816-246-9473. Give us a call and it just starts with a conversation. Also, we will have a link to Aaron's website and a way for them to be able to get in touch with you in the show notes. So just click on that and be able to touch base with them. And I know from the process firsthand, it starts with a conversation. And so that's really it. We have to understand kind of where we're at and what we're up against, but it just starts with a conversation. But we can't encourage you enough to start planning, plan now, plan early. That's where you have the most options. So, Aaron, thank you for joining us on this episode and bringing your expertise, as always, to this. We appreciate the partnership, the friendship as well over the years, and your expertise in this area. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. And if you come to the office and see me, I probably will be in a sport coat or suit and tie. But I wanted to support our local team. We do it at our office every Friday, whoever's in season. And, of course, Wise Wealth, and hence the hat. So you guys have a great rest of the day. Thank you for tuning in.
And so, again, if you found this information helpful, share it. Share it with those that you know may need this. Be able to do that. But look forward to having you join us next time. Again, hit the like, subscribe button so that you'll be notified when this content comes out. Thank you for tuning in today from all of us here at Wise Wealth. We look forward to seeing you next time.